This is a special episode of Dan the Road Trip Guy, a little bit different. My good friend and I got together last year and recorded a pre-race show for the Indy 500, and we're going to do it again this year. My friend Jeff Zurcher and I have known each other for years, and every year for a long time, we have texted back and forth during the race. Last year, we decided, let's do a pre-show. That's what we did. Memorial Day, special time honoring our veterans who have fallen to protect our freedoms again, and it's race weekend in Indianapolis for the greatest spectacle in racing. I hope you enjoy our little show here, and we'll look forward to 2024 when we do this again.
Well, Dan, it's great to be with you on race day. It's crazy how time passes so quickly, which is appropriate, I guess, when you're talking about the Indianapolis 500. But here we are, another Memorial Day weekend and the greatest spectacle in racing.
Yeah, and the 107th running. Is that crazy or what? Here at this, I was reading a little bit about the Speedway today. You know how many things you could fit inside the Speedway and how large it is. Because I think if you've never been there, it's just so hard to imagine that. You know, it's like a mile from one end to the other.
Yeah, my son is now old enough to play golf. He's known about the Indy 500 more than he's known about golf growing up. But now he's like, Dad, do you think we could ever play? You know, I think it's what's the name of the golf course? I don't even know, but I know there's at least 3 or 4 holes inside the oval. It might even be the Brickyard. It might be the name of the course.
I think it is the Brickyard.
I don't think anybody would be focused on golf.
No, I don't think so. You know, it's funny. I had my good friend Dr. Pittman with me last year, and he's like, there's a golf course here, and he loves golf. I'm like, yeah, there's a golf course here, but we're not playing golf today, so we're racing.
No.
33 cars are going to race around this track.
And the qualifying speeds were incredible this year, and 234 point something.
Yeah, 234 point something, but topped Scott Dixon's from last year, which was a record last year.
And Scott, with violation in pit row, was running so well and finished 21st after starting on the pole. And I know that was a disappointing run for him, a disappointing result. He was running well, disappointing result. So he's, I'm sure, eager to get back at it this year.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. And he was in that fast 6 of qualifying, but he'll start 6th. Just some of those young guns were just running a little bit quicker up there at the front.
Interesting, the age disparity, right? You have some baby-faced guys and some grizzled, quote-unquote, old guys. Dixon, 42, I think, and TK, 48. May not be old to some listeners. Doesn't seem old to me, but you got a 27-year span or so between the oldest driver in the field, which I think is Kanan, and the 21-year-old guys.
Yeah, for sure. And there's like 3 of those guys back there I saw. But speaking of TK, this is his last time around the Speedway, so he says. So
yeah, so he says. You know, he's one of those guys, and I know all drivers do, but I know I've read interviews on the past for him how much he really feeds off the crowd, and I'm sure, especially with that floating around out there, this is his last run. That the crowd is going to be crazy for him.
Yeah, and don't count him out. Last year finished 3rd.
Yeah, and he's always. Yeah, it feels like he's from Indiana, even though he's not. But he always feels like a hometown guy, and I'm always pulling for Ed Carpenter, Indianapolis guy, and hopefully he'll have a good showing today.
Yeah, I hope so. Looked like he was going to be fast there in qualifying, but fell back a little bit. And of course, he's got 2 other cars there with him, and one of them's up there in the front with VK, and then Connor Daly. A little further back. So,
well, speaking of drivers, is anybody feeling like a favorite to you at this point?
I don't know. The I don't know if you call it a sleeper, but AJ Foyt's really struggled over the past few years, and all of a sudden this young gun up there in the front with the crazy hair, he's going to be starting up there in the first 2 rows, so I think he starts 4th. So it should be interesting. That car looks great. It's red, white, and blue. Just really looks cool, and he's driving the number 14.
Santino Ferrucci, right? Santino
Ferrucci. Yeah, thank you.
Sounds like a racer to me. I was looking at the odds to win, at Vegas's odds to win, and Pato O'Ward is the favorite, only slightly over Palau. Scott Dixon in third, Rossi and VK rounding out the top five, and then the repeat or the champion from last year, Ericsson, in at six. Then the guy Vegas thinks as the seventh highest odds to win is actually, for some reason, as I'm looking at the grid and thinking about the drivers, Sato. I don't know. He won in, I think, 17 and 20. So he's, that was a 3-year span, and now here we are, 2023. So I always like the way he drives. I have a good feeling about him for some reason today.
Yeah, don't count him out. And I was looking on Carb Day Friday. He was right up there in the top. So actually, Will Power was the fastest car, I believe, on Carb Day. He and Dixon, and then I think it was Sato right after that, if my mind is correct on that. So yeah, he could be a serious contender. Those McLaren cars, though, there's 4 of those guys, and they are just quick. And Kanan being one of those cars, and 2 of them are they have 2 of the spots up there. So
let's talk about these young guys for a minute, and one of them is if I can say, your buddy Stingray Robb.
Yeah, I don't know if he's my buddy or not. Maybe he is. I've had him on the podcast. He's just a super nice young man for sure, and struggled there in qualifying, and he was trying to get in there on the very last day on bump day. But I believe you're going to see that name around for a few years. He's going to get better and better for sure. And then you got Peterson, who's in another AJ Foyt car.
He's starting 11th. Yeah, in the 55 car.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then
in between Ericsson and Will Power, so he'll get experience real quickly.
Yeah, he's going to learn quickly on the start. And then you got Lundgaard, I believe is his name, Christian Lundgaard. He's 21 also. He's driving for Rahal. And Rahal, speaking of Rahal, man, qualifying was just terrible for them.
He's running in the final spot and replacing Wilson, who was injured in the crash.
Yeah, so that's Graham Rahal is starting in that car last. So that's interesting. Graham Rahal, a well-known name in Indy racing, failed to make the field. He got knocked out by his own teammate Harvey, who went out as a last-ditch effort trying to put his car in the race, and he barely inched out Graham. And then the next day, Stephen Wilson has a crash with Catherine Legg. Anyway, they put Graham in that car, which is odd because it's a Chevy-powered car, and he's usually a Honda guy. So I don't know what all went on behind the scenes to make that happen, but I'm guessing.
Yeah, Honda had to give him the green flag, really, green light to go. Probably that would be interesting. But touched on some of the young guys, and then of course, as we mentioned, some of the quote-unquote older gentlemen in the race today. TK and then Helio, both 48 years old. And I think that makes them older when Al Sr. Won it in 87, who was the oldest winner to date.
Yeah, that sounds right. And, Elio will be going for number 5. Could be interesting, but he's starting pretty far back. And, these young guys are just hard to race with, I think, as you get older.
Yeah, it's interesting, the difference in experience, which is so valuable, and then reflexes and risk taking, right?
Yeah, odd. The Penske drivers are pretty far back in the field starting this year. Power, Newgarden, McLaughlin.
Okay,
yeah, starting pretty far back. Be interesting to see what happens there. It's a long race. I'm sure they'll figure that out.
Yeah, name we haven't mentioned, who's kind of in between the young guys and the old guys, is one guy that we always cheer for, at least in our house, is Ryan Hunter-Reay in the 23 Chevrolet, starting right beside Newgarden there in row 6, along with Connor Daly.
Yeah, good to see him back in a car for sure. He was with Andretti for years and moved away from that ride. He's there. He's a former winner. We'll see see what happens there. And then, of course, we've got an Andretti in the field.
Yeah.
Once again, we've got an Andretti trying to break that curse of the Andrettis and send another Andretti back to victory circle since 1969 when Mario was there.
Yep. So Marco will be in row 8 in the 98 Honda car. Pagano, too, who seems to perform well at this track, seems to be pretty consistent as well.
Yeah, and he'd be Elio's teammate, so we'll see what goes there. But anyway, that should be interesting. We do have a female in the race.
Yeah, Catherine Legg.
Yeah,
in the 44 Honda, starting in row 10.
Yeah,
right there in the middle.
Good to see that.
Yep. Talk about I mentioned Ed Carpenter earlier. He is one of the older statesmen as well. Been on several poles, but yet to get a victory. Maybe today will be the day, starting in row 5 in the 33 Chevrolet.
Well, I think it's going to be a great race. It's always a great race. It looks like it's going to be cloudy today, but we'll see. Sometimes that sun just all of a sudden pops through here. We'll be waiting on all the festivities to start up here and shortly with all that flyover and parades and back home again in Indiana. That's your favorite, I know, because you're an Indiana boy.
Yeah. No, I was just mentioning to someone the other day, my son, who I mentioned earlier, he's got a basketball game today at noon. I said, don't they know the Indianapolis 500's on? She just kind of looked at me, and then she said, actually, I'm an F1 fan. I said, oh, really? So we got to talking a little bit about that. But, yeah, it's what a great weekend to celebrate our veterans, celebrate our country, and watch some amazing men and a lady compete. What's your favorite part, Dan, about being at the track? What are a couple things you really enjoy?
Oh, I don't know. I just always like to walk around this place. It's just gigantic, and there's just, so much excitement in the air here. And, there'll be probably close to 400,000 people here. Largest sporting event attended, of anything. And it's just the whole festivity of things. And when they launch those balloons and, we're ready to go racing, that's just fun for me.
Yeah, I don't. You mentioned back home again in Indiana. My family does think I'm a little strange, and I get chills. I have to be right there listening. That was one of my favorite things going to in past races that I've attended, and it is. It's a spectacle, right? It's the greatest spectacle in racing. We would argue it's the greatest race of any kind, and certainly in oval track. So should be an awesome day. Hopefully it'll be just as fast as it was in qualifying. Everybody will be safe.
Yeah, I hope so. I really hope so. At some point, we're going to have to get here together, even if it's on a practice day, and we can sit and talk about what's going on out there.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Well, I'm sure we'll be texting furiously as much as you're able to. It's a little easier for me sitting in front of the television, but that's always something I really enjoy too. Just the chatter, kind of living vicariously through you there at the track. But it is a great opportunity to be there. If any of the listeners have never been, it truly would be a memorable experience for you.
Yeah, it should be on everybody's bucket list to go one time.
Well, here's what I'm expecting. If Stingray Rob can somehow pull up one of the biggest upsets of all time, that you sneak down for a live update from pit row.
Yeah, he kind of promised me that during the podcast. I told him, I said, "Now you have to give me first interview when you win the Indy 500." So I sent him a message today. We'll see if he gets back to me. But just a great young man, and what a cool name, right? It's kind of like Will Power. We often comment on Will Power's name.
Yeah.
How fun is that? But
well, if you get down there, you'll have to be a sponsor on the car for next year too. So
yeah, that's true.
There's trade-offs.
Yeah, there's trade-offs, and I don't know if my checkbook's that big, but anyway,
No.
this is always fun to do, and yeah, I look forward to the text. You might want to, since you're going to be at a basketball game, you better download the Indy app and get
That's
that
true.
on your phone, and then you
That's
stick
true.
in your
Yeah.
your ear pod, and you can listen, and then we can text back and forth. Because that's been one of the most fun things. I don't know when we started that. I wish I had all the text messages for the years. I always go, doggone, why don't we keep those? And,
Yeah.
I'm sure they're in the cloud somewhere. We could probably pull them off.
Yeah. Well, enjoy the time with your brother, and we'll be banging away on the keyboards here soon.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Yep.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dan the Road Trip Guy, and we look forward to having you back again next time. In the meantime, if you want to find me, you can find me on the internet at Danny, D-A-N-N-Y, Neal, Neal.com. Until we meet up again, keep having conversations and keep driving.